Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. In this video, we are at Memorial Park in Eldora, Iowa. This park has just been turned into a frisbee golf course, and there are a lot of stumps in this park that I thought I would go around and just take photographs of the stumps. I've found in the past that the fairies seem to like the stumps to perhaps gather things that they need, and some even live within the stumps. I did photograph a good number of fairies, as I kind of expected, and you will see a few of them in this video. If you go all the way through the video, you'll see an elf, a witch, a fairy, F-A-I-R-Y, and I do believe I actually photographed a Cyclops. Isn't that cool? So before we get going, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this video so I know that this is the kind of content you're looking for. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and join the FaerieQuest family. One other thing, if you're feeling warm and fuzzy, consider donating a cup of coffee to me using the link below. I could use a strong cup. Okay, here we go. What an awesome way to begin this Real Fairies in Real Photos video than with an actual fairy, F-A-I-R-Y, like Tinkerbell. She's tiny, but she is beautiful. We can see her beret, hat, blonde hair, both eyes just under her bangs, an arm, both legs, and her gorgeous wings. She is sitting on the ground looking over her shoulder. Is she a stump dweller? I highly doubt it, but she certainly knows the value of what may grow around a stump for beneficial uses. This fairy is a bit harder to share, as it has used the grass to form itself in our dimension. This is not at all uncommon. The beings that frequent grassy areas are usually not seen with the naked eye, as they are almost invisible. What often gives them away are their eyes and/or facial features, and sometimes their arms and legs. This being is squatting down. His eyes are clear, as is his nose and chin and one knee. Here we have another grass blender who has done a phenomenal job hiding, but in this case the facial features gave him or her away. When eyes are where they are meant to be and a nose is a bit down and between those eyes, then a mouth is below that, we know there is a being. This one looks like it is having fun. Not only is there a smile, but there is a twinkle in its eyes too. Oh, and we can also see the right ear, which points off, it is very pointed, toward the right of the photo as we look at this being. The other ear appears to be pulled back. This fairy is peeking at us from behind the stump, and as you can see, she is on the same side of the original picture as the previous two beings. As with those beings, this one is a grass blender too. The first thing that stood out were her blonde puffball pigtails, then her dark eyes. Then, as though to seal the deal that I was looking at a fairy, the fingers on both of her hands can be seen. These beings take some extra eye practice to find, but once you discover your first one, your eyes seem to pick them up pretty quickly after that. This fairy, I believe, may be of the elf species, or at least a close relative. He doesn't seem to have the delicate features I have come to recognize in the elves. His face is more rugged, and he appears irritated. As with the previous three fairies, this fairy is a very good blender. but he is just a bit off from the green that surrounds him, which is what made me take notice. A few more steps and he would not have been in my photograph at all. We have a girl fairy here with a bun pigtail on each side of her head. In the cropped photo above, it looks like her glasses take up her whole face, but if you look at the photo to the left, you can pick out her nose and her cheeks, and the glasses are normal size. Her upper body and one arm are visible, as is one foot. As we can see, her face is flesh-colored, but the rest of her is green, including her hair, so as to blend in to her surroundings. There seems to be something about the edge of my photos. This fairy looks like he purposely stepped into the photo from the right-hand side. We can see his hat, his face, at least his eyes, and one hand is up to his face. The full arm and hand we can see begins at the shoulder, and his hand appears to be at his heart, as though we startled him. If you look closely at his shoe, I think you would agree that this appears to be the shoe of a leprechaun. Magically delicious. It is obvious with this fairy that seeing me was not going to ruin his appetite. He just kept right on eating, as can be seen with whatever he is putting in his mouth. This is another grass blender that I almost missed. His face is gray colored, as is his chest area, ankle, and foot. His lower body resembles a cabbage, and, in some ways, he looks like a very young child. He might be, as I often photograph fairy children, but as I've said before, I wonder where their parents are, as I rarely see parent and child together. I might have passed this one by if it weren't for the hat and the teeth. I'm not certain, but I believe this fairy may be a Cyclops. We can see his hat, his mouth and teeth, part of his upper torso, an arm, and a hand. The stump piece he appears to be peering around is probably hollow, and he is probably standing inside it, or at least on a lower edge piece to lean out and look at me. He doesn't look overly menacing, but could definitely give a good bite if need be, I would think. A very worried fairy, it seems. He is tucked back into the stump as though something bad is going to happen. I had to lighten the cropped photo above for you, as the picture to the left is quite dark where this little fairy is. With it lightened, we can see its face in profile. It has a muzzle like a dog with the little black nose on the end, and we can see one wide eye. There is also a hand with what looks like 3 fingers, 2 folded and 1 pointing. I have lightened the cropped photo above for you to enable you to see some details more clearly. This looks like a family. The father must be Hercules, as he appears to have the older girl on his shoulders and is also carrying the small child. The older girl has her hand on top of the small child's head. All that we can see of the father is dark curly hair, one eye, his nose, and what appears to be a dark mustache. We see only the small child from the back. The older girl's face is blurred, but we can see an eye, dark hair, and an ear. Photos like this are rare. This fairy may be a nature spirit. She is not as ethereal as some of the nature spirits I have taken pictures of, but she does have the lighted cane or staff. We can see her dark hair and her face in profile, though only the nose and the hint of a dark eye under the bangs can be seen. She has a thick coat or shirt on, as is seen by her arm, and it appears that the kitten is clinging to the front of this thick fabric. This nature spirit is looking at something intently, but I cannot see what she sees. It looks like we have grandfather and grandchild here. Another rare photo. We can see the grandfather with his hat and his face in profile. His upper torso is present, but we cannot see much else. The little girl has long, dirty blonde hair, and we can see her face in profile as well. She may be holding something, but I can't tell for sure. They have pushed up against the stump, but the little girl is still a bit 3D in comparison to the grandfather, who seems to have melded with the stump. I don't believe a lot of labeling is needed for this fairy, as she stands out well enough. We can see her hat, one eye, her nose and her mouth, the stole of leaves going from around her neck to her waist, her arm and hand, and the long skirt she is wearing. I don't believe she was even aware of me, as she does not appear to have attempted to hide at all. We have a little witch here. She did her best to blend, but her conical hat had more of a turquoise color around it instead of green, which is what caught my eye. So her hat is black and turquoise. We can see her brown hair under the hat and her eyes, but the rest of her is hidden behind whatever is on the ground that she chose to hide behind. She did manage to turn her face green though. Okay, so that is it for the stumps in Memorial Park in Eldora, Iowa. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time. Take care.